So welcome back to part 2 of the racing highlights from the Scottish Classic Motorcycle Racing Club's round 3 event that was held at North Carnduff Farm in Strathaven. So let's get straight into the next race, which is the pre-1977s over and under 40s and over 50s and 125s. So as the riders leave the line, looks like another good start by Liston Bell once again, number 98. Of course, we have quite a good collection of different machines in this class. Looks like number 9, Lewis Bell, has already got a problem with his big 4-stroke CCM. But in this collection of riders, we have 4 different race classes, but naturally the riders will be scored individually as they cross the start and finish line. But at the front, it's that man again, number 98, Liston Bell. Second place is Derek McCauley on the 250 Bull Tackle Persang. Number 416 in third is, of course, Mike McClurty on the CR 125 Honda, who of course is leading that particular class in this race. Now in this part 2 video we have just 3 races in each block this time, as opposed to the 4 races that we had in the first half of the day's programme. So the races will certainly come thick and fast in this part 2 video. So as we pick up our riders at the front, it's still Liston Bell, and we're taking a look at number 29, Derek McCauley on the 250 Bull Tackle Persang. It's still Mike McClurty who is currently in third, but of course, as I said, Mike is leading the 125 part of this race. And there's your race leader, number 98, Liston Bell. There doesn't seem to be any sign of Liston's brother Lewis, who appeared to have some kind of mechanical issue at the start of lap 1, so I don't know if Lewis has managed to get that big CCM up and running once again. But Liston Bell looking down at the back end of the bike, so I don't know if Liston thinks he's got some kind of problem, maybe a puncture or some similar kind of mechanical issue, but he's certainly still going at a good rate of knots. We're just taking a look at some of the other riders making their way around the track. Number 78, that's Alex Martin, just making his way through. But there's number 9, Lewis Bell. Looks like Lewis has finally got the big CCM up and running once again, so he'll certainly be rocketing through the pack here. So it'll be interesting to see how Lewis finishes at the end of this race. But he has to get a move on, because this is the last and final lap of this race. But it's going to be another win for number 98, Liston Bell, who has just crossed the line, and it's going to be Derek McCauley on the Bull Tackle in second. So moving right on to our next race, which is the pre-1984s over and under 40s and the over 50s class. Looks like Mark Kenny and David Loudon are your early race leaders in this class. Mark Kenny out again on that big CR500 2-stroke Honda, and David Loudon in second position there in the yellow, riding that very quick YZ 465 Yamaha. Now normally in this part 2 of the racing programme, after the lunch break, the racing classes are mainly based on the rider's age and not the year and model of bike that they ride. So it's quite a different kind of format from part 1. So we're looking at number 87 there, that's Darren Brown, that's that 1979 440 Myco that we had a look at in our paddock walkabout. But here's your two race leaders. Number 21 Mark Kenny on the CR500 Honda, who leads David Loudon, number 75 on the 465 Yamaha. But this had been quite a good afternoon for Mark Kenny on his big Honda. David Loudon there, also very quick on that two-stroke 465 Yam. Number treble 5 just going through there is Grant Willison. As we take another look at Darren Brown. Looks like Darren's got some kind of mechanical issue with his 440 Myco. But things certainly hotting up here at the front between number 21 Mark Kenny and number 75 David Loudon. So it's still Mark Kenny with the slight advantage over David Loudon. Two quite quick riders on two very quick machines here, but as they cross the line to start another racing lap, it's still Mark Kenny who leads David Loudon in second position. And as you can see, the weather is still perfect for this kind of racing. Thankfully, not too much dust at this point in the proceedings, so fingers crossed that it doesn't get too bad as we head towards the end of the event. So here's the battle at the front between number 21 Mark Kenny and number 75 David Loudon. Looks like David can hang with Mark Kenny's Honda, but unfortunately not being able to make a move as such. So it's still number 21 Mark Kenny who's in charge at the front. And just making his way through there is number 491, that's Rob Wilson on his CR480 Honda, a bike that we had a look at in the paddock. And this is another bike that we had a look at. This is Billy Pentland and his YZ490 that he changed to a twin shocker. So here's the battle at the front. It's still Mark Kenny, number 21, who leads David Loudon in second position. Doesn't look like David's going to be able to make a move on Mark Kenny's big Honda. So this has been another good performance by these two very quick riders. So we're taking a look at Rob Wilson, who I think is in third position there on the CR480 Honda as he starts his last and final lap of this race. Number 17 is Mike van der Merwe on the 490 Myco, but as they head towards the checkered flag, it's going to be a win for number 21 Mark Kenny on the CR500 two-stroke Honda. Looks like it's going to be David Loudon who's going to come across the line in second position, but another very dominant display by Mark Kenny on that big Honda. And so that brings us quite nicely on to the pre-1984 over age 58 class. A big lineup of riders for this class, and as they leave the line, it looks like Paul Chiappa's made a good start. Alan Bott is in second position, and it looks like John Stokes on that 250 CR Honda, who is currently in third position. So as we begin lap one, it is number 2 Paul Chiappa on the 490 Honda, not a 250 of course, with those green backgrounds and the white numbers, which would normally denote that this is a 250, but I don't think if Paul's trying to fool us into thinking that maybe this is just a little 250, but it's certainly a big Mega 2 490. So it's Paul Chiappa, number 2, your race leader. Second is Alan Bott, number 74. Third is John Stokes, number 151. at number 750 is Sam Sybil, just making his way through on that borrowed CR480 Honda. Number 43 is Andy Malik again on his 414 Montesa. So as our riders begin lap 2, it's still Paul Chiappa who leads Alan Bott. Paul, of course, is still a very quick rider on these 490 Micos, even although he's almost 65 years old now, but just recently closed his motorcycle shop in Dunfermline and has now retired, which gives him much more time to enjoy racing his Micos and, of course, enjoy his collection of classic British road bikes as well. Number 585, that's Steve Dent. I think Steve's out on a little 125 CR Honda this time, and not his big 4-stroke Husqvarna. It looks like Alan Bott is lining up a pass on Paul Chiappa this time round, so it looks like Alan's got the drop on the Scotsman, Paul Chiappa. So it's Alan Bott now, your race leader. Paul Chiappa currently in second place, and I think it's still John Stokes at number 151 on the CR250 Honda there in third position. As we take a look at number 27, that's Mike Doby riding his Honda Red Rocket. Number 791 is Stephen McWhirter riding his 1980 440 Micro. So as they head towards us again, it's still at number 74, Alan Bott, who's had a very good afternoon here at North Carnduff Farm. It looks like Alan's looking comfortable for another race win. Paul Chiappa is still sitting there in second position, number 2. We take a look at Andy Malik once again at number 43 on one of the 2 Montesas that he's brought along to this round 3 event here at Strathaven. So as a race leader comes round to begin his last and final lap, it's number 74, Alan Bott, who of course does quite a lot of racing in a year, because he usually races at many of the big twin shock scramble events around the UK, and when all of the rest of us have our old race bikes and bodies tucked up for the closed winter season, then Alan's usually flying across the pond to the USA and taking part in their race events. So he's a very busy man, and as you can see, quite quick on a 490 Micro as well. So as he comes round to take the checkered flag, it's going to be another quite dominant win by number 74, Alan Bott. Looks like it's going to be Paul Chiappa who's going to cross the line in that second placed position. But yet again, another good performance from the Dunfermline man on the big Micro. So that brings us back to the second block of racing. And this is the second race for the pre-1977s over and under 40s and over 50s. And of course, the 125s as well. So as our race starter, Stuart Riddle lets the riders loose from the line, we'll try and pick up who's our current race leader, and it looks like it's number 416, Mike McClurty, who's made a good start on that 125. As you can see, the dust now beginning to fly here at North Carnduff Farm, but this is a nice combination here between the little 125 2-stroke Screamer and number 9 there, Lewis Bell, and the big single-cylinder 4-stroke CCM bike. And of course, both of these riders could quite possibly be riding in the same class because of their ages, so a nice combination of those 2 bikes and 2 very talented riders. So it's at number 9, Lewis Bell, who now looks like he's our new race leader. And this, of course, is not a fully original CCM bike, it's a remanufactured machine. Third place there is number 25, that's Craig Smith on the 125 RM Suzuki. Number 84 is Kyle McClure. Number 254 is John Miller. Number 78 is Alex Martin. Number 43 is Andy Mallock, who this time is out on his 360 CZ bike. So Lewis Bell certainly opening up a bit of a gap to his pursuers and going very quick on that Joe Maxwell manufactured frame with the BSA B50 engine in the chassis. A very quick machine, as you can see, and Lewis has certainly got it hooked up into this North Carnduff racetrack. Number 416 going through is Mike McClurty, and it's still Craig Smith in third place. Liston Bell looks like he's in fourth, and that's Kyle McClure just going through there, number 84 on the Michael. John Miller making his way through to start another racing lap. And there you see Andy Mallock there, number 43 on his CZ. But you may remember that I said in part 1 that Lewis has been out of action for a full year when he had a shoulder injury at the big Drumlandrig Castle meeting in 2022, and he's only recently came back to racing, and this is, in fact, is his first race event in just over a year, so it looks like Lewis is back up to his racing speed once again. Number 29 there is Derek McCauley on the 250 Volcaco purse sign. Number 200 is Albert Britton. Number 118 there is Kenny Harper riding that lovely Twinport CZ. So we're back with our race leader as he heads towards the checkered flag. It's going to be a win for number 9 Lewis Bell on the big 4-stroke CCM bike. So a very good performance there by Lewis, and just going through there in second place. It looks like it's going to be Liston Bell who's going to cross the line in second position. So that brings us on to the second race for the pre-1984s over and under 40s and over 50s class. Not as many riders in this class, but you usually find that's what happens as the day goes on between mechanical breakdowns and riders had enough of the racing. They tend to fall away at the end of the meeting, but it's Mark Kenny and David Loudon once again who have taken the whole shot as they head into turn 2, and it looks like it's David Loudon with the early advantage, but having said that, Mark Kenny just shoots past on the back straight. So it's Mark Kenny and David Loudon as per the previous race in positions 1 and 2. So another good start by these two very quick riders. David Loudon, number 75, is on that wise 465 Yamaha. Number 121 there just going through is Neil Jones. Number 254, that's John Miller, who this time is out on his big CR480 Honda. But this man's certainly been on the case this afternoon here at North Carnduff Farm. Mark Kenny on the big CR500 Honda 2-stroker. Mark, of course, did come out on his big C&J 600 4-stroke Honda, but it appears that this CR500 2-stroker is suiting this track much better. But David Loudon there still keeping a watching brief on Mark Kenny in case he makes any kind of mistakes, and he's almost ready to pounce. As we take a look at number 67, that's Michael Tweedy riding that lovely 250 Honda Red Rocket. But you can see that these big open class bikes, it doesn't take them too long to complete a lap of this quite short racetrack here at North Carnduff Farm. So these big bikes are certainly lapping this track at a very quick rate, but it's still number 21 Mark Kenny who leads number 75 David Loudon. As we take a look at number 491 again, that's Rob Wilson on his CR480 Honda. But these two still at it at the front. Mark Kenny, number 21, who leads David Loudon, number 75. And of course we don't have Paul Chiappa and Alan Bott taking part in this race purely because of their ages, but nevertheless this is still a good race here between Mark Kenny and David Loudon. Number 121 is Neil Jones. Number 17 again is Mike van der Merwe on his 490 Michael. There doesn't seem to be anything to separate these two at the front. It's still Mark Kenny, and of course this time when they cross the line it will be the start of their last and final lap. But David Loudon is certainly having a go at Mark Kenny, but just can't seem to get that move completed. But this has been another good ride here by the very talented David Loudon on the YZ465 Yamaha. And so with just over half a lap to go to the completion of this race, it's still Mark Kenny, number 21, who leads David Loudon. But David certainly looks like he's going to try and have a go before the checkered flag, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a move. So it looks like it's going to be yet another win for Mark Kenny, number 21, and it looks like David Loudon is going to have to settle for the runner-up position this time around. But another good race by these two very quick riders. So that brings us quite nicely to the second race for the pre-1984's over age 58 class. So we should see another good battle here between Paul Chiappa and Alan Bott. So look out for those two as they leave the line. It looks like Paul Chiappa has got the whole shot and made the better start in second position. It looks like Sam Sibbald has made a good start in that second spot. John Stokes now moving up into second position, but Sam Sibbald is riding a borrowed CR480 bike. I think that's Brian Alexander's bike that Sam Sibbald has borrowed, but it's veteran racer number 2 Paul Chiappa, your race leader. Second is number 151 John Stokes. Alan Bott is in third position. Steve Dent there, number 585, is out again on his little 125 Honda, as we take a look at Mike Doby just going through there, number 27. So as our riders start lap 2, it's still Paul Chiappa and it's Alan Bott now, number 74 in second position. John Stokes is in third place, but remember John Stokes is on a CR250 and not a big open class bike, so John Stokes is doing very well there on that 250 to keep up with these big 490 Mega 2s. As you can see, the dust beginning to fly here at North Carnduff, but we don't have too many races left, so hopefully we'll get through the final block of races before it gets too bad. So it's still this man here, number 2, Paul Chiappa, who is yet to win a race here this afternoon, so it all depends if he can keep the flying Alan Bott behind him as the laps count down. So currently it's number 2, Paul Chiappa, your race leader. Alan Bott is in second position. John Stokes is still managing to hang with those big 490s, and John's, as I said, riding a 250 Honda compared to these big fast 490s. But this just gives you an idea of how quick these 1981 490 Michael twin shock bikes were back in the day, and when you get these kind of talented riders riding these big open class bikes, then you can certainly make them move, and these two are putting on a fantastic display for the crowd that have gathered here at North Carnduff Farm. So it's Paul Chiappa still first, Alan Bott is still in second position, and it's John Stokes currently in third. But Paul Chiappa still hanging on to that first place position, being pursued by number 74 Alan Bott, who looks like he had a bit of track tape wrapped around his boot there, but he seems to have managed to get rid of it. But Paul Chiappa still hanging on here in pole position, being pursued by Alan Bott. So as they cross the line once again, and this will be to start their last and final lap of this race, but as they go down the back straights, they're side by side, the two 490 Michaels. Looks like Alan Bott's going to try and go round the outside, but Paul Chiappa closes the door and keeps him behind. But this has been a fantastic race by the veteran Paul Chiappa, so hopefully he can keep Alan behind him as they head towards the checkered flag. But it's currently number 2 Paul Chiappa with Alan Bott in second position, so only a couple of turns to go. So Alan Bott has managed to steal that win from Paul Chiappa on that very final corner. So that brings us on to the final block of races, and this is the pre-1977s over and under 40s and over 50s and 125s, and this will be their final race of the day. So we've got 4 different classes in this race, and as I said, they will be scored individually according to their age and class as they cross the finish line. But the man at the front is number 416 Mike McClurty on that super quick CR125 little Honda. Craig Smith is currently in second position, riding that 1981 RM125. It looks like Lewis Bell is back out once again on the big 4-stroke CCM. So as the rest of the chasing pack come round to complete lap 1, number 84 there is Kyle McClure from Dunoon on the west coast of Scotland. Number 89 is Mike Bell. But we are back with our first 3 riders. It's still Mike McClurty, number 416 on the 125 Honda, who leads Lewis Bell at number 9 on the big single-cylinder 4-stroke CCM. Third position there is number 25, Craig Smith, on the 81 RM 125 Suzuki. Of course, these Suzuki bikes, as I said, were Suzuki's first ever venture into water cooling a motocross machine, and as you can see, these are quick little bikes as well. Number 200 is Albert Britain. Number 71 is Brian Aird riding that BSA. And just coming through there is Ian Ward at number 246 on his BSA. But this is a good scrap here at the front between the tiny little 125 two-stroke bike of Mike McClarty's and the big 4-stroke 500 plus single of Lewis Bell's big CCM. So quite a contrast in machines there, but looks like Lewis Bell is now hitting at the front. Number 78 is Alex Martin, and Alex is riding another little 125 Honda. Number 89 there is Mike Bell on the BSA Gold Star. So here's your new race leader, number 9 Lewis Bell on the Joel Maxwell CCM machine. Number 416 Mike McClarty just going through, and number 25 again is Craig Smith on the RM125 Suzuki. Number 254 is John Miller, back out this time on his 125. You may remember John was out on his 480 Honda in a previous race, so he's back up with his little 125 once again. But here's your race leader as he heads towards the checkered flag. It's going to be another win for Lewis Bell at number 9 on the big 4-stroke CCM, and it's going to be Mike McClarty who's going to cross the line in second position. And so that brings us on to our penultimate race of the day. This is the pre-1984s over and under 40s and over 50s class. Now look out for Mark Kenny and David Loudon again, but the whole shot goes to Mark Kenny, number 21. It looks like David Loudon is in second position again, so it looks like we're back to where we were in the previous race between Mark Kenny and David Loudon, who again are going to slug it out to see who's going to take the win in this particular race. But I do hope you've enjoyed most of the racing highlights from this round 3 event here at North Carnduff Farm, because in just under a week's time I'll be off on my travels once again, and this time I'll be heading across the Irish Sea to cover a 2-day charity scramble event held at Cecil Pearson's racetrack at Craig Antlet. So look out for all the bikes and action from that event coming soon to my channel. But here's your race leader. It's still number 21 Mark Kenny on the CR500 Honda, who leads David Loudon, number 75 on the YZ 465 Yamaha. Number 491 is Rob Wilson on his 480 Honda, and number 67 just making his way through once again is Michael Tweddy on his 250 Red Rocket. But this man here, Mark Kenny, and of course Alan Bott in the other class, have been two of the very quick riders here at this round 3 event at Strathaven. It looks like Mark is looking comfortable for his final race win of the day, but we still have a couple of laps to go, so it's still number 21 Mark Kenny, your race leader, from this man here, number 75 David Loudon. So it's still David Loudon in second position, and I think David actually had quite a lot of input putting this track together. I think he was one of the club workers who laid the track out, so thanks to David and the rest of the club members for their hard work putting this track together. So it's still Mark Kenny, your race leader, and it's still David Loudon in second position. Looks like Rob Wilson is in third, and number 17 is Mike van der Merwe. Number 121 is Neil Jones on his 250 Red Rocket. So we're back with our race leader, number 21, Mark Kenny. And when Mark crosses the finish line this time, he'll begin his last and final lap, but it doesn't look like David Loudon's going to get close enough to make a move on Mark Kenny. So one more lap to go, and it looks like Mark's going to notch up another race win. It's still Rob Jones in third position, and it's now Mike van der Merwe at number 17, who is currently in fourth. And so it's the final lap in this race for number 21, Mark Kenny. Doesn't look like David is going to be close enough to make any kind of move, barring a mistake from Mark. So it looks like Mark's going to take yet another race win. So this has been a fantastic afternoon for this very talented rider, and it's going to be David Loudon who's going to have to settle for another second place runner-up position. Okay, that brings us round to our final race of the day. This is the pre-1984's over age 58. So look out for Mr. Chiappa and Mr. Bott doing battle once again when they leave the line. So we're just waiting on our chief starter, Stuart Riddle, letting the bikes loose from the line. It looks like we're good to go. So as I leave the line, it's Paul Chiappa again who's got the whole shot. John Stokes has made another good start. Alan Bott, as they go into turn 2, is currently in fourth position. So as they all sort themselves out, we'll get a look at who's who. So it's still Paul Chiappa who is your race leader. John Stokes is in second position. I think that could be Sam Sybil there in third spot, and it looks like it's Alan Bott in fourth position. So it's been another good start here by the veteran racer Paul Chiappa, number 2. John Stokes, of course, as I said, is riding a 250 bike, and it is indeed Sam Sybil, number 750, who's went a bit wide there, so that moves Alan Bott up into third position. So on lap 2, we're looking to the far side of the track to pick up our race leader, which is still number 2, Paul Chiappa. John Stokes is currently in second position, but Alan Bott is closing in at a good rate of knots, so John Stokes could be under a bit of pressure just shortly on that 250 Honda from number 74, Alan Bott. So Alan Bott trying to go down the inside, but I think he'll pass John Stokes on the straightaways down into the corner with the power of that 490 Michael. Number 14 going through is Brian Hamilton. It looks like Brian's out on his big RM 500 Suzuki this time round. So it looks like Paul Chiappa has got a bit of breathing space between himself and Alan Bott at this point. John Stokes is still in third position, but Paul Chiappa looking good as he comes towards the start and finish line to complete another lap, but I don't think Alan Bott will be completely finished as yet, and he's already looking like he's closing in on Paul Chiappa's 490 Michael. So we could be in for another good scrap as we head towards the end of this race. And you may remember in that previous race that Paul led most of the race right to the last turn before the checkered flag, and Alan Bott shot past and stole the win on the very last corner. So Paul will be hoping that theme doesn't reoccur in this race, but he's still in pole position with Alan Bott in second position. But Alan looks like he's going to have a go down the straightaways, but Paul Chiappa just opens up the throttle on that big 490 and manages to stay in pole position. But this has been some fantastic racing between these two this afternoon. Two very talented riders on two very quick German-made Michael machines. But it's still Paul Chiappa, number 2, your race leader, and when they cross the line this time round, they will be starting their last and final lap. So we'll wait and see if Alan Bott is going to manage to do the double on Paul Chiappa, but he has another go down the straightaways, but Paul Chiappa just stretching the legs of his 490 Michael. But with a little bit more than half a lap to go, it looks like these two are going to be a fight to the finish again. It looks like Alan Bott is going to try and have another go at Paul Chiappa, but Brian Hamilton may come into play as and Alan Bott goes round the outside, and Paul Chiappa has had to take a different line because Brian Hamilton was coming through. So it looks like Alan Bott is going to take another race win, and it's going to be a second place position for number 2, Paul Chiappa. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed all of the racing highlights from this round 3 event here at Strathaven, and in my next video posting we'll showcase all of the bikes and all of the racing from the 2-day charity scramble at Craigantlet in Northern Ireland. So until the next time, thanks again for watching, and we'll speak again very soon when we return to Classic Dirt Bike TV.